Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're doing a deep dive into something pretty amazing.
Yeah.
It's all about building a resilient mindset, and we'll be looking at chapters 8.1 through 8.4 of the Resilient Futures Handbook.
It's really interesting because this handbook,
Yeah.
it doesn't just focus on, like surviving some major crisis.
Right.
It's really about equipping you with the mental and emotional tools
Yeah,
to just navigate the everyday curveballs that life throws your way.
absolutely. And I think that's what makes this handbook so valuable
Yeah.
because we face those curveballs every single day, right?
Right.
So let's break this down a little bit.
Okay.
The handbook kicks off with this concept of psychological preparedness.
Mm-hmm.
It's section 8.1.
Right.
Now, it sounds pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah.
But what does that actually look like in practice?
So the handbook does a great job of unpacking this concept.
Okay.
It's not about being stoic or unfeeling.
Yeah.
It's about having the mental agility to anticipate challenges and having a plan to cope with them.
So it's like having a mental game plan,
Exactly.
not just reacting in the moment, but being prepared to face whatever comes at you.
Precisely.
Okay, I like that.
And a big part of that is having go-to coping mechanisms.
Okay.
The handbook highlights two main types.
Okay.
The first is problem-focused coping,
Okay.
where you tackle the issue head-on.
Mm-hmm.
So imagine creating a detailed to-do list
Right.
to manage a crisis step by step.
That makes a lot of sense because sometimes just breaking a problem down into smaller, more manageable steps
Right.
can make it feel less overwhelming.
Exactly, but sometimes the issue isn't something you can directly solve.
Right.
That's where emotion-focused coping comes in.
Good.
Think of it like managing the feeling surrounding the stress.
Okay.
So things like deep breathing exercises,
Uh-huh.
talking it out,
Yeah.
or even allowing yourself to feel those emotions instead of bottling them up.
So it's about recognizing that sometimes the problem isn't external. It's about managing your internal response to the situation.
You got it.
Okay.
And the handbook doesn't stop there.
Okay.
They delve deeper into building overall emotional strength.
Okay.
They talk about mindfulness,
Uh-huh.
the power of positive self-talk, silencing that inner critic,
Right.
and the surprisingly impactful practice of gratitude.
I actually tried that gratitude journal thing for a while.
Yeah.
I was skeptical at first,
Mm-hmm.
but it was pretty eye-opening to see how focusing on even small positive things could really shift my perspective.
That's exactly what the handbook highlights.
Yeah.
It's incredible how consistently acknowledging the good, no matter how small,
Right.
can have such a powerful effect on your overall outlook.
Absolutely.
So,
So we've got psychological preparedness.
Yeah.
We've got that mental toolkit ready to go when things get tough.
right.
But then the handbook takes it a step further in section 8.2 with adaptability and innovation.
Mm-hmm.
Are those two really as interconnected as they seem?
They absolutely are. And the reason they're both vital for resilience
Okay.
is that we live in a world that's constantly changing.
Right.
Adaptability is about rolling with those punches,
Okay.
while innovation is about coming up with completely new solutions when the old ways just don't cut it anymore.
Okay, so think of it like this.
Okay.
You've planned this weekend getaway,
Mm-hmm.
but a sudden storm rolls in.
Okay.
Adaptability is shifting gears and finding a fun indoor activity instead.
Right.
But what if that storm causes a power outage?
Yeah.
Now you need innovation to figure out how to cook dinner, entertain yourself, and stay comfortable without electricity.
I love those examples.
Yeah.
And the handbook gets into specific tactics for both.
Okay.
For adaptability, it emphasizes cultivating a growth mindset
Okay.
where you view challenges as opportunities to learn and grow.
Okay.
And then there's emotional flexibility,
Okay.
being able to adjust your emotional response to a situation without getting stuck in a negative spiral.
That makes me think of those people who can stay so calm and collected,
Yeah.
even when everyone else is panicking.
Right.
It's not that they're ignoring the problem.
Right.
They're just choosing a more productive way to respond emotionally.
Exactly.
And I like that.
And I think when it comes to fostering innovation,
Uh-huh.
the handbook dives into challenging assumptions.
Okay.
It's about questioning the "we've always done it this way" mentality,
Right.
because sometimes the best solutions come from completely rethinking the problem.
Yeah, absolutely. And they talk about creating safe spaces for experimentation.
Yes?
Because let's be real, if you're constantly afraid of failing,
Right.
you'll never try anything truly new and groundbreaking.
So true.
Right.
And I love that they highlight the importance of collaboration.
Yeah.
brainstorming with others,
Ah.
working on community projects.
Mm.
It's amazing how two heads are often better than one when it comes to finding those creative solutions.
Absolutely. I'd say we're not just mentally prepared.
Yeah.
We're also ready to adapt and innovate when faced with challenges.
Yeah.
But then in 8.3, the handbook kind of takes a bit of a turn
Okay.
and focuses on ethical considerations.
Okay.
Now, I get why that's important on a large scale,
Right.
but how do ethics actually play into individual resilience?
That's a great question. And this
Mhm.
section really makes you think about the kind of resilience you're aiming for.
Okay.
Is it just about personal survival,
Right.
or is it about building a world where everyone can thrive?
I see what you mean, because if it's all about every man for himself,
Right.
that doesn't exactly create a resilient community.
Exactly. And the handbook emphasizes how acting ethically builds trust,
Okay.
which is absolutely essential for resilient communities.
Yeah.
It's about fairness and justice, ensuring that resilience efforts don't leave anyone behind,
Right.
and thinking long term,
Yeah.
considering how your actions today will impact future generations.
So it's about sustainable resilience.
Yes,
Not just a quick fix that creates bigger problems down the road.
exactly.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
But how do they suggest we actually maintain our integrity,
Okay.
especially when things get tough?
So the handbook lays out some really practical steps.
Okay.
First, it's about defining your values.
Okay.
What truly matters to you when
Mhm.
you're facing a tough decision,
Mm-hmm.
especially when it's tempting to take the easy way out?
Right.
Your values can act as a compass to guide you.
That makes sense. It's like having that internal reminder of what you stand for,
Right,
even when things are chaotic.
right. Then there's empathy.
Okay.
Consciously considering the impact of your actions on others
Mm-hmm.
and leading by example.
Okay.
Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply be the person who makes the ethical choice, even when it's hard.
It's like those people who volunteer during a natural disaster.
Yes.
Or who step up to help a neighbor,
Right.
even when they're struggling themselves.
Exactly.
Their actions can inspire others to do the same.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That ripple effect of kindness and compassion is what strengthens communities.
Okay.
So ethical considerations,
Yeah.
they aren't just about being good.
Right.
They're about building the kind of resilience that benefits everyone.
Absolutely. And this leads us perfectly into 8.4,
Okay.
leadership and initiative.
Okay.
Now, again, I can see how that's crucial on a global scale.
Right.
But how does this apply to individuals in their everyday lives?
So the handbook argues that leadership, even in informal settings,
Okay.
is key to building resilience at every level.
Mm-hmm.
Think about it in a crisis. Who do people naturally turn to?
Yeah.
It's often those who step up,
Right.
who remain calm,
Mm.
and who have a plan,
Hmm.
or at least the willingness to figure one out.
You mean like that one person who always seems to know what to do when the power goes out?
Exactly.
Yeah.
They might not have a fancy title,
Right.
but they're demonstrating leadership in that moment.
Yeah, I like that.
And the handbook breaks down some of the key qualities of these resilient leaders. Leading by example, as we've talked about,
Mhm.
actions speak louder than words.
Uh-huh.
Emotional intelligence is also huge.
Okay.
Understanding and managing your own emotions.
Mm.
And those are the people around you.
Because freaking out never really helps anyone, right?
You got it.
Okay, good.
And then there's the ability to make decisions under pressure,
Mm-hmm.
even when you don't have all the information.
Okay.
Because in a crisis, waiting for perfect clarity could be disastrous.
So it's about being able to act decisively,
Yes.
even when things are uncertain and messy.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then the handbook gets into the power of initiative,
Okay.
how taking action, even in small ways,
Uh-huh.
empowers you and contributes to the resilience of your community as a whole.
It reminds me of that saying, if you want something done, ask a busy person.
Right.
They're the ones who are used to making things happen.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
And the handbook offers specific tips for cultivating initiative. Proactive problem solving, which we touched on earlier, is huge.
Okay.
It's about anticipating problems and taking action before they become full-blown crises.
So it's about prevention whenever possible.
Yes.
Okay.
And taking responsibility,
Mhm.
owning your choices and their outcomes, good or bad,
Right.
and inspiring others to act.
Okay.
Resilience can be contagious. Your initiative might just spark a chain reaction.
Like when one person starts cleaning up after a storm
Yeah.
and suddenly the whole neighborhood joins in.
That's a perfect example.
Yeah.
The handbook even gives a real-world scenario of taking initiative,
Okay.
organizing a community response during a power outage.
Right.
It doesn't have to be a grand gesture.
Hmm.
It's about recognizing a need and taking action to address it.
It's about being the change you want to see,
Exactly.
even in your own little corner of the world.
Yes.
This is great stuff.
It is.
I feel like we've only just scratched the surface of building a resilient mindset.
Yeah, I agree.
But I think we've covered some really valuable ground today.
Absolutely.
Psychological preparedness, adaptability,
Yes.
ethical considerations, and leadership.
Yeah.
It's a powerful combination.
It is.
So for our listeners out there, if you want to dive deeper into these strategies and really start putting them into action, we'd highly recommend checking out the Resilient Futures Handbook for yourselves.
It's a great resource.
It's packed with insights and practical guidance on how to navigate this increasingly unpredictable world that we live in.
Absolutely.
And as you explore these ideas, we love to hear your thoughts.
Yes.
What strategies resonate with you the most?
Yeah.
What challenges are you facing in building your own resilience? Join us on social media.
Yes.
Let's keep this conversation going.
Let's do it.
Because remember, resilience is stronger when we build it together.
Absolutely. Welcome back. It's great to have you here for the second part of our deep dive into building a resilient mindset.
You know, as we've been discussing all these strategies from the handbook, I've been thinking it's fantastic to have this mental toolkit and all these amazing skills.
Right.
But isn't there a bigger piece to this puzzle?
Yeah.
What about the community aspect of resilience?
You're absolutely right.
Okay.
The handbook actually dedicates a whole chapter to this.
Okay.
Chapter 3 to be exact.
Right.
It dives into community engagement and the importance of local self-sufficiency.
Okay.
Because let's face it, you could be the most mentally resilient person in the world, but if the community around you crumbles, it's still going to be incredibly tough going.
It really takes a village, doesn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the handbook goes deep into specific strategies for building these strong, resilient communities.
Okay.
And it starts with understanding the importance of robust community networks.
Okay.
Think neighborhood associations, mutual aid groups, even just knowing your neighbors well enough to borrow a cup of sugar or help each other out in a pinch.
It's funny because growing up, my parents were always big on knowing the neighbors.
Yeah.
It wasn't just about being friendly.
Right.
It was about having people you could rely on if something happened.
Exactly.
You know, and it's amazing how that sense of connection
Yeah.
can make a real difference in times of need.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the handbook emphasizes that these networks can act as a safety net during a crisis.
Oh, okay.
It's a way to share information, resources, and even just offer emotional support to those who need it.
There's something incredibly powerful about knowing you're not alone in a difficult situation.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But the handbook doesn't just talk about existing networks, does it?
It doesn't.
It also encourages people to actively build those connections.
It does.
Yeah.
And it offers some really practical ideas for doing that.
Okay.
Creating opportunities for neighbors to connect, to get to know each other,
Yeah.
and to develop that foundation of trust.
Right.
Because let's be real, it's hard to rely on a complete stranger when things get tough.
Right.
But if you've already invested in building those relationships, it makes a huge difference.
It makes me think about those community preparedness initiatives, like developing emergency plans together,
Right.
or organizing neighborhood watch programs.
Yeah.
It's not just about being social.
Right.
It's about taking concrete steps to prepare for those potential challenges as a community.
Exactly. And the handbook highlights the amazing benefits of shared resources and facilities.
Okay.
Think tool libraries, community gardens, even co-working spaces. It's about realizing that we don't need to reinvent the wheel.
Right.
If we pool our resources, we can accomplish so much more together.
Sharing resources just makes practical sense.
It does.
But it also strikes me as a brilliant way to strengthen community bonds.
Yes.
When you're working side by side with someone towards a common goal.
Right.
It naturally builds trust and communication.
That's a great observation. And the handbook goes beyond just physical resources.
Okay.
It also encourages the sharing of knowledge and skills.
Okay.
Think workshops, community classes, even informal mentoring programs.
Because knowledge is power, right?
It is.
The more we know and the more skills we have as individuals, the more resilient our community becomes as a whole.
I love that. And it reminds me of something the handbook specifically emphasizes.
Okay.
The importance of preserving and passing down traditional skills.
Okay.
Things like gardening, basic home repairs, even first aid.
Right.
These are skills that can be incredibly valuable during a crisis.
Yeah.
Especially if external systems are disrupted.
It's like tapping into that old school self-sufficiency that our grandparents often had.
Right.
They knew how to fix things.
Yeah.
They knew how to grow food, take care of themselves and their families.
You're exactly right. The handbook argues that it's time to reclaim some of that wisdom.
Yeah.
Because the more we can do for ourselves and for each other, the less reliant we are on systems that might not always be there when we need them.
It's about empowering individuals and communities to take care of their own needs.
Yes.
To become more self-sufficient.
Exactly.
But the handbook doesn't just stop at telling us what to do.
It doesn't.
It also explains why it matters.
It does.
Okay.
For example, it talks about how this local self-sufficiency can actually strengthen local economies.
Okay.
Which in turn makes communities more resistant to global economic shocks.
It's about diversifying our resources and our support systems.
Exactly.
So that we're not putting all our eggs in one basket, so to speak.
Right.
That way, if something happens on a global scale, our local communities are better equipped to weather the storm.
Exactly. But you know, the handbook goes beyond even these practical considerations.
Okay.
It talks about cultivating a genuine culture of resilience.
So it's not just about having the right tools and resources in place.
Right.
It's about having the right mindset as a community.
Precisely.
Okay.
And they highlight the importance of things like open communication, collaboration, even having a sense of humor in the face of challenges. Because let's face it, facing tough times is a lot easier when you're doing it with people you trust, people who can make you laugh, even when things feel heavy.
It's like that sense of camaraderie you get from going through a tough experience with a group of people.
Yeah.
You come out the other side feeling stronger and more connected.
I love that. And the handbook gives some concrete examples of how to cultivate this culture of resilience.
Okay.
Things like celebrating successes together, sharing stories of overcoming adversity, even just acknowledging the challenges, and offering each other support.
It's about creating an environment where resilience is valued.
Yes.
And encouraged, even celebrated.
Exactly. And the book makes a fascinating point. This culture of resilience isn't just about surviving crises.
Right.
It's about thriving in the long run.
Okay.
When communities are strong and connected,
yeah,
they're much better equipped to adapt to change, to innovate, and to create a positive future for everyone.
It's not just about being prepared for the worst.
Right.
It's about having the collective capacity to create the best possible outcome.
Exactly.
It's inspiring to think about.
It is inspiring. And the handbook reminds us that this isn't some far-off utopia.
Right.
It's something that's already happening in communities all over the world.
You know, it makes me think about those towns that come together after a natural disaster.
Yeah.
They don't just rebuild.
Right.
They rebuild stronger because of that shared experience.
That's such a powerful example. And the handbook encourages us to look for those examples of resilience in our own communities, to learn from them, to draw inspiration from them, and to contribute to them in whatever way we can.
Because resilience is a collective effort, isn't it?
It is.
We all have a role to play.
Absolutely.
In building a stronger, more resilient future.
You said it.
Yeah, and the handbook is packed with resources and guidance to help you take those first steps.
It is.
Whether it's joining an existing group, starting your own initiative, or even just having a conversation with your neighbors.
Right.
It's about finding those small but meaningful actions that can strengthen our communities and make a real difference.
This
is such an empowering chapter.
Yeah.
It gives me hope that even in the face of these massive global challenges, we have the power to create positive change right where we are.
Absolutely.
It's about shifting our focus from fear and isolation to action and connection.
That shift in perspective, that's where true resilience begins.
Speaking of taking action,
the
Resilient Futures Handbook doesn't shy away from the nitty-gritty of personal preparedness. Chapter 4 dives into specific strategies for you and your household.
You're right.
Yeah.
Because even with a supportive community, there are times when you need to be able to rely on yourself. It's that old adage, hope for the best, but prepare for the worst.
It's like having insurance for your life.
Yeah.
You hope you never need it.
Right.
But if you do, you're incredibly grateful you have it.
That's such a great way to put it.
Yeah.
And the handbook breaks down emergency planning into manageable steps.
Okay.
Starting with assessing your potential risks.
Okay.
It encourages you to consider what types of emergencies are most likely to occur in your specific area.
Okay.
Because a hurricane preparedness plan in Florida is going to look very different from an earthquake preparedness plan in California.
Makes sense. One size doesn't fit all when it comes to emergency preparedness.
Exactly.
Welcome back to our final deep dive into building a resilient mindset. We've explored so many fascinating strategies and examples from the Resilient Futures Handbook.
It's been quite a journey.
It really has, but now we've reached the last chapter.
Yeah.
The path forward. And I'm curious to hear what insights the handbook offers as we wrap up this whole exploration.
You know, this concluding chapter, it doesn't try to hand us like a definitive answer or a step-by-step plan.
Yeah.
Instead, it reminds us that resilience is a continuous journey.
Okay.
An ongoing process of learning, adapting, and evolving.
So it's not about reaching some end goal where you're suddenly resilient and everything is smooth sailing from there on out.
Yeah.
It's about embracing that ongoing process of growth and development.
The handbook emphasizes that there's no finish line.
Okay.
It's about continuously refining your skills. Expanding your knowledge.
Yeah.
And finding new and innovative ways to navigate those inevitable challenges that life throws your way.
So it's not about achieving some perfect state of unbreakable resilience.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing that setbacks and mistakes are part of the process. It's about learning from those experiences and becoming more resilient as a result.
You've got it. It's about embracing that journey of continuous learning and growth.
Yeah.
Knowing that there will be bumps along the way, but that each challenge is an opportunity to become stronger and more adaptable.
It reminds me of that saying.
What's that?
Fall 7 times, stand up 8.
Oh, I like that.
You don't give up. You keep getting back up.
Yeah.
And learning from each stumble.
Yeah.
But the handbook also reminds us that we don't have to go it alone on this journey, right?
Absolutely. One of the most important takeaways from this final chapter is the power of collective action.
Okay.
The book highlights how communities that come together to face challenges are far stronger than individuals trying to navigate those challenges on their own.
It's the classic many hands make light work principle.
Exactly. And they share inspiring examples of communities around the world that are putting these principles into action.
Like what?
Sharing resources, supporting local businesses. Working together to prepare for potential disasters and coming up with creative solutions to environmental challenges.
It's those real-world examples that give me so much hope.
Yeah.
It's proof that a more resilient future is possible.
Yeah.
And that we can all play a role in creating that future.
I agree. Seeing those communities in action is incredibly inspiring.
Yeah, it is. But it's important to remember that building a resilient future isn't just about us.
Right.
It's about those who come after us as well.
Absolutely.
It's about leaving a legacy of resilience, isn't it?
It is.
Passing on that knowledge, those skills, and those values that will help future generations thrive.
Exactly. The handbook encourages us to think about the long-term impact of our actions today.
Okay.
To make choices that support not only our own well-being, but the well-being of the planet and all its inhabitants for generations to come.
It's about recognizing that we're all interconnected.
Yes.
And that our actions have ripple effects that extend far beyond ourselves. It's about taking responsibility for the future we're creating.
That's a powerful perspective to hold, isn't it?
It is.
It means that even small actions can make a big difference.
Yeah.
Especially when those actions are multiplied across communities and across generations.
It's like that saying, a single spark can start a fire.
Yeah.
Each act of resilience has the potential to ignite a movement.
I love that. And that's the call to action that the handbook leaves us with.
Okay.
To embrace these principles of resilience, to actively practice them in our own lives, and to inspire those around us to do the same.
So it's not just about reading the handbook.
Right.
It's about living it.
Yes.
About embodying those principles in everything we do.
Exactly. And remember, this is a journey, not a destination. There will be challenges along the way.
Right.
But the rewards are well worth the effort.
Because a resilient life, a life filled with purpose and connection, and the ability to navigate whatever comes your way, that's a truly meaningful life.
You said it. And I think that's a beautiful note to end on.
Yeah.
We've explored so much in this deep dive.
Yeah, we have.
From building individual resilience to creating stronger communities,
Oh.
from developing practical skills to cultivating that all-important resilient mindset.
But as we've said throughout this deep dive, this is just the beginning.
Right.
The real work happens in our everyday lives.
Absolutely.
In those small but powerful choices we make each and every day.
Exactly. And we sincerely hope that this exploration of the Resilient Futures Handbook has given you the knowledge, the inspiration, and the tools to embark on your own resilience journey with confidence and enthusiasm.
Absolutely. And if you're looking for even more insights and guidance, we highly encourage you to pick up a copy of the handbook for yourself.
It's a great resource.
It is. There's so much valuable information in there that we didn't even have time to cover in these episodes.
Right.
And as you put these principles into practice, we'd love to hear from you.
Yep.
Share your experiences, your challenges, your successes.
Yes.
Let's create a community of resilience together.
Because resilience is always stronger when we build it together.
It is. The more we learn, the more we share, the more resilient we all become.
Well said.
So until next time, stay curious, stay adaptable, and keep building that resilient future one step at a time.
We'll be here cheering you on every step of the way.
We will see you next time.